It's DUG24. 24 hours, 24 sessions, 24 speakers, 100% Microsoft Dynamics. It's unparalleled, unprecedented, and undeniable fun with your hosts Beau Schwieso and Bobby Small. Let's get into it with another episode of DUG24.
Yeah, Murray, if you're online and you want to just come off camera, we can kind of kick off a little early and give you a little more time at the beginning too, as well.
I can do that. Luckily I just finished scarfing down my lunch, and so hopefully I was very careful not to have anything spill on me, which would be embarrassing.
Yeah, that's an important topic, Bobby, and I did not discuss on is how we're going to exactly eat during this 24-hour conference. So
yeah. Will DoorDash come in the door, down the stairs? Yeah.
Yes.
I'm just really not that I didn't expect it, but I'm really impressed that you both have been on camera all this time, and through the first, what is it?
I say we're feeling good now. The first quarter, we're just over a quarter. We're feeling good. My intention is to be on camera and be engaged the entire time. Yeah, no naps. Food will happen at some point. I'll have to run up and get a power bar or something. Anyway, we're excited. Again, we've had so many great speakers so far. Murray's been around. I've known Murray for a long time. We were around when D365 Finance and Ops was D3FO. What was it? D3FO. D3FO. For a minute, we were trying to make CP30 happen, but in D3FO happen along with Kelly Gustafson. Didn't quite make it there, but for just a minute.
And Dynamics went through so many names during right when it went to the cloud. It was AX7, and then it was Dynamics 360
here and there.
Yeah, Dynamics 365, Dynamics 365 for Finance Business Edition, and then that was BC, and then there was Dynamics 365 Finance for Enterprise, and so, but now at least it's settled down and everything's fine.
I still call it AX7.
I say,
yeah.
I still call it Zapta. So I'm really old. So.
Zapta can also be accepted. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. We'll let you kick off, Murray, whenever you're ready. The floor is yours.
Okay. So first of all, thank you for letting me present, and also all of the other great speakers that have come before me, and some of the ones that are going after. So I'm hoping that I'm going to steal some of Frederick's thunder with his presentation and his keynote with some of my vibe coding. But what I'm going to talk about for the next hour, or 64 minutes actually, is something that's really, really interesting and really, really cool. So everyone's talking about vibe coding and vibing stuff and so forth. But one of the things that's really interesting is that can we go out and use AI to configure Dynamics, or also go and configure extensions in the system? And a little bit of a spoiler alert, then yes, you can. And I'm going to show you a couple of these examples as we go along. Now, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Murray Fife. I'm a solution engineer at Microsoft. This is my second try at being a solution engineer at Microsoft. For a couple of years, I was given the opportunity to work for myself, and now I'm back at Microsoft. But before that, I spent 6 years in the partner channel with two partners working with Dynamics. So I've been working with Dynamics for the past, I think, 16 years. So as Bobby was saying, that we've seen a lot of changes along the way. So but one thing that I do, I work in sales, so I don't do implementations, although I help a lot of customers with implementations. So really what do? I go out and I like to say I sprinkle the pixie dust on systems and give people inspiration as to what they can do with it. And for this topic, this is just a cool topic. It's really neat. It's really interesting. All of the AI capabilities that we can take advantage of. And AI is a buzzword. It always has been, but it's actually become really useful over the past not that long, maybe past year, maybe year and a half, since things like the MCP service came out, and the language models are changing exponentially as we're going through all of this. So a fun one of the fun facts about me is that I've actually been working in AI maybe longer than some of the people have lived in this that may be coming on this. I got an AI degree way back when it was just expert systems and inductive learning and a couple of other things. So and actually, I was cited in my professor's book on data mining, which was pretty cool. But what we're going to talk about today is this concept of vibe configuration, and also using vibe coding to go out and extend dynamics. And I've got a whole slew of examples that we can work through. So we're going to talk about the vibe configuration and what that is, and then also the tools that I use, or the tools that I currently use, because the AI landscape is changing like daily. So there's always new tools, there's new language models, there's new things that we can use. And because I work for Microsoft, I'm going to show primarily Microsoft products and give you a sneak peek into some of the products as well. But so we're going to work with the Copilot products. Although personally, I also use native Claude, I use native ChatGPT, I use a whole slew of different tools with this. Now, what I'm also going to show is the configuration of Dynamics using these different iterations. Some of them are going to be simple. Some of them are going to be a little bit more technical in nature. But don't be scared, because everyone should be able to do some of this within the system. And at the end, we'll try to have a little bit of time for some questions. Now, if some questions do come up, then just stop me, and I can answer them along the way. I can't see the chat window; I can just see the person window right now. But so this slide is sort of a little bit of a leading slide, and there really is no problem with traditional configuration. And in configuration, we can sort of apply to everything, and we can see how AI has sort of changed all of these things. But normally, we've got a lot of hands-on keyboard. We've got a lot of tweaking and messing around with things and possibly thought on how we should go out and do things. And I sort of started with this slide because I was frantically creating these slides this morning because I didn't know what state everything was going to be in to show. But PowerPoint is a good example. So this is the actual PowerPoint slide before I went out and I used AI to go out and help me with configuration. And I had the general layout of everything, but I just wanted to have this vibe configuration sort of sanity check, just a quote in there that I can talk to. So this going out and using AI to help you build things and add context, and also sometimes add new ideas that you haven't thought of, is a new technique, and it really is, because it's only been around about a year or so since we've been able to do this or do it well. The option to going out and using AI, in this case, to go out and help me set up or create quotes for my PowerPoint, would be to go and ask someone, or go out and sort of think of something and then wordsmith and spend hours going out and changing sort of things, getting rid of M dashes and all these things. But now we can go out and we can use simple prompts. And all I did here is I said, I really just want a sort of like a description that shows up here to add color to the PowerPoint. Now, what if we could do the same thing inside of Dynamics? What if we could, rather than go out and do all that legwork, what if we could go out and ask AI to do some of the work? And I was listening to the keynote with Donna Sakar this morning, and she's great. She gave me she's got so many good ideas. The one thing that I heard her talk about before this presentation is she was talking about her there's a 9 to 5 job, and then there's a 5 to 9 job. So there's the 5 o'clock, there's the 9 to 5, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. job that you do. But then you've also got all this time, which is the 5 a.m. to 9, and then the 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. that you can actually do stuff. And she's really insightful about this. And something she said in the keynote, which I noted down, is she said there's human problems and there's AI problems. There's things that we can do that are where we add value, where we're value added. And there are things that AI can do that we can just get AI to take that off our plate. So when we go out and think about Dynamics, and this, I'm going to talk primarily about finance and operations, but you can do the same thing with all the Dataverse apps. You can do the same thing with sales and customer service and field service and project operations. But there's things like configurations, setting flags, going out and adding products, adding customers. We never wake up in the morning and say, oh, I want to add in 100 customers into the system. But sometimes we have to. Sometimes we have to do that work. So why can't we go out and use AI to vibe configure this? So what I'm going to go through in this presentation is a number of different techniques that I use to help with this configuration. And I'm going to show Copilot Studio very, very briefly, because Copilot Studio is like it's not the older sibling. It's more like the simpleton sibling. It does a lot of things, but we can do a lot more with like CoWork and so forth. But Copilot Studio allows us to go out and create agents that are very purpose-driven. You can give them guardrails. And this sort of comes up, the second presentation that was this morning talked about guardrails and guidance and sort of trying to control agents. I don't worry about that. I'm not too worried. But so don't judge me. I'm not. But the Copilot Studio allows us to create apps that have a lot of control around them within the system, and they can connect to Dynamics through this thing called an MCP server. Now, something that I love, and I didn't see the value in it initially, was CoWork. So some of you may not have CoWork. So CoWork, as we start using AI, then we're going to start realizing that this is a utility where all of these things expend energy, and AI expends energy, or what we're tracking, in tokens or Copilot tokens or GitHub tokens or Claude tokens or Anthropic ChatGPT tokens, but this is like the kilowatt hours we have for energy. So we have to put money in the machine to get these things to work. But CoWork, which is sort of like the bigger brother of Copilot, has the ability to connect to Dynamics. So both F&O and sales and customer service as well. And as a result to Dataverse and everything that we've got in there. And this was something that was added in that became available not long ago, maybe 3 months ago. it was added in, and the sky opened up, and the sun shone down, and everything was great because of what we can do with this. So I'm going to talk a little bit about CoWork. Now, there's a new tool which is called Scout. Some of you, some customers are using this right now. It's in preview, so only Frontier customers can use it. But I want to give you a sneak peek of this because it's really important. And Scout is sort of like OpenClaw to a degree, running on your local machine. So Donna talked about this as well when she was going out. She said we've got CoWork, which is sort of like very, very enterprise focused, but then also we've got Scout, which is personal. So she said, and I think I'm quoting Donna Sakat a little bit too much, but she said, Scout understands you, CoWork understands the enterprise. And as a result, we can, there are some very interesting tools that allow us to do this vibe configuration. Now, the final area that I'm going to look at is Visual Studio Code. Now, I've been using this for a long time, and someone showed this to me, or I saw it in a presentation, and the light just went on right away. And I started convert. I was like a fanatical priest going out and trying to convert the masses here at Microsoft, trying to teach them, say, Visual Studio Code is like the best thing since sliced bread. They said, well, we don't code. And I said, I don't care. You don't need to code. It's a interface that gives us these great capabilities. So I'm going to show you this, but then in the framework of not being a coding tool, but also I'm going to show in the framework of being a coding tool as well, because this screen that I've got here is is a prototype that I created that goes back to Dynamics, and I actually did some vibe coding to build this, and I think it's pretty darn cool. So we've got these tools. So let's have a look and see. Let's go and look at these. So the first one thing, let me pull this up. So there's one thing that has made the configuration and the management of Dynamics. It's put it on steroids, and that is this thing that we call the MCP server. So CoWork should be popping up soon. So the MCP server, for those of you that don't know what it is let me try this a different way. It's like an API, or it's an interface that agents can use to go and connect to other things. Now, in our sense, what we've got is we've got an MCP server for Dynamics, and what that does, that says it allows agents to go out and do things within the system. So if I say, for example, if I wanted to just create a simple assistant for me that goes out and does some things, then I'm here within Copilot Studio, and Copilot Studio is the agent development tool that we can go out and use. So I'm going to create one here. So I'm going to create an agent. Now, Copilot Studio, there are other tools that we can go at that we can use that do similar things, because all Copilot Studios, but Copilot Studio is a UI that allows us to go out and quickly generate agents. And I'm going to create this agent, and then I'm going to connect it up to Dynamics. So all of these things have what we call MCP agents, Model Context Protocol agents. But the one that we're interested here is that I want to use the Dynamics agent. Now, when I'm doing this just to sort of ease everyone in, because what this agent has is, if you're technical, then it's got a whole bunch of APIs. But those APIs allow us to go out and query OData, but also it allows us to go and perform tasks. So we can go out and click on things and run tasks. So if I look at this agent, then in a second these tools are going to populate, and these are all of the things that we're allowing agents to go out and do. Now, this isn't the tools aren't go and look up inventory, go and create a customer. It's actually click on a button, open a form, do things, filter a form, and so forth. So it's a little bit smarter, because what it does is our sort of metric is that this gives us around about 650,000 different actions that we can do within the system. And then also, for those of you that haven't gone out and created agents, then we can choose the model that we want to use. So from the Microsoft standpoint, although we do have Microsoft has started to develop its own sort of AI model, we go out and we use Anthropic, we use OpenAI, and we can go and choose which one we want to use within the system. And I'm just going to use this. So what I can do, let me edit that. So what this is doing, now I've got an agent, and the language model can go out and it can look at what I'm asking and connect to Dynamics. And what it's doing is it's going out and finding an entity. Now, even though I should be looking up Coco, which is my Coco database, and it's also going through and it's looking up customers. So what I did is I said, go out and look up all of these customers. So here are all of the customers coming out of the system. So in essence, we can go out and we can query anything, and then we can get the system to go out and act upon this. Now, we're talking about vibe configuration. So what I could say is analyze the customer groups, find a possible group that doesn't exist, and add it. So now I'm going out and I'm giving it a purpose. I'm telling it to go and do things. So now this is where the light turned on for me, because what we can do is we're not going out and just we're not just doing a query. We're going out and telling it to do things. Now, when the benefit, so it's gone out and it said, here's some items. So there's actually a financial and banking services group that hasn't been added. So it looked at the ones that were covered, and then it's going to go out and add that customer group to it, and it's going to create a data entity, or maybe it'll go through and click on this. Now, if this is a more complicated transaction, say, for example, create a sales order or something that requires buttons to be pressed, then this MCP server goes out and does this. So it's gone out and said, I've created a new group here. And then if I go over to Dynamics here and switch my company, then what we'll see is that our financial services group. So if I go to Coco, then search for customer groups, then we'll see that customer group has been added. So here's my financial services, but also it's been given net 30 payment terms. So this is also really interesting too, because what I said is I didn't tell it what the payment terms were. It just sort of looked at all the other ones and then worked out what it was, and also looked up what the payment terms can be and then added it. So the light came on for me that the language models are pretty smart, that they can go out and they can find this, they can work this information out. So this is the first step. If you if you've got Dynamics, then you can go out and have the MCP server. Now, for the more technical people, the MCP server is not an additional sort of add-on or additional website that's running. Whenever you go out and need to reference it, which I'll show you in a second, the URL for the MCP server is just the URL for your environment of Dynamics /MCP. So when we go out and when we start connecting these, then just like we can go and access the OData through data, then we can access the MCP. It won't show us anything, but we can access the MCP just by putting /MCP at the end of it. So what I did here is I went out and created a general purpose item. Now, if we want to go out and use this in the system, then within I'm doing a little bit of selling of Copilot Studio, but I don't need to. But if we want to go out and use this inside of Teams or Outlook, which will pop up in a second, then we just publish it out like any Power App that we do. Now but also, just as a side note, when we go out and create these sort of Copilot Studio agents, then we can, for those of you that are Power Platform people, then we can embed these in here. And the reason why I did this is because I was lazy. So agents sort of help with laziness, because in this Power Automate flow, I needed to go out and I actually needed to do some string manipulation to find a specific field in the system, which is in this case requisition ID. So before last week, what I did is I had to go out. I had to do a compose. I had to do some serial filtering of this. I had to do some string sort of manipulation and some tweaking here. And then I had to do some variable management. Here I just said, go and find the requisition ID and the agent. The agent for a couple of tokens went out and found that. And then I did some more down here. So it's really interesting what we can do. Now, if I go back and so this is all fine and dandy, but there's a Copilot which is built into Dynamics, which I think might be being upgraded because it's no bueno. It's a little bit it's not my favorite, but what we have in Edge is that we've got the Copilot chat button that shows up here, and the reason why I've got this is because when I have Dynamics up and running, then I always have this have CoWork up and running here on the side. So this should pop up in just a second. Let's hope so. So what it means that I can go and ask questions on the data within Dynamics. But I'm going to let me close down some of this. Okay, so it's loading now. Now the reason why I have this is because when you're working, and then there's always tasks that you have to do, which may be setup tasks and maybe configuration tasks that need that you could do manually, or we could go out and we could manage through agents. Let me see if I can access this over here. So when I'm go to here. So well, I'll go back to Dynamics because it should be updating. But I've got CoWork running here in the system. Now, CoWork allows us to go out and run queries as well. And it's going to access Dynamics. Now, if you haven't, I'll let this run. If you've got CoWork and you haven't tried connecting it to Dynamics, then if you go into CoWork and click on the plus button, then there's a customize option. And then what we see is that within CoWork, there are some standard connectors, and one of them is the ERP system. Also, we've got customer service and sales and also Fabric that we're connecting to. So what this means is that within CoWork, so this enterprise view that we've got, we can go out and tell it that I want it to be able to access Dynamics. Now, every time it goes out and runs things, I think in maybe it was the second or the third presentation, there was there were comments that we have to be careful when we're going out and doing these approval steps, because agents could go out and go rogue, or we could give them more access than we think that we should. Now, that's if you're going out to improve vibe code. Now, all I'm doing is connecting to Dynamics, and when I connect to Dynamics through CoWork or through Copilot Studio or through Scout or Visual Studio, as we see, then it's going to be my delegate. It's going to be impersonating me, so that it actually only has access to do what I can do within the ERP system, which is a major security point. So the agents don't have full access. But I went out here, and here's all of my customer groups. So it went out and found that. Now, so what I can also do from a configuration standpoint is I can go out and I can tell it to go and do some things. So let me just go back here and go back to my demo. I'll refresh that and see if that pops up. But what I'm doing is I'm telling it to go out and do some configuration, some simple configuration along the way. And what we're going to see is it's going to go out and it's going to create a customer for me with an address. Now, something that is really interesting that I was pleasantly surprised that it actually did is I ran through this and I gave it a text file, or I can give it an image, and the agents will go out and it will read the images or look at the text file and then take all that context and then use that when it goes out and creates this. So imagine if you had like an Excel spreadsheet with a list of new prospects that you got at a trade show. Then what you can do is you can say, just plump it into the system, into CoWork, and say, just go and create these as prospects. So it's going to be smart enough to go out and realize it's a prospect or a customer and then move through. Now, notice it's going out and there are some errors that are popping up, and that's fine because the agents are just like us. It's not fumbling through, but it's trying to work through what it needs to do. And sometimes it goes on the wrong process, but then it winds itself back and sort of moves through this. So now this is a simple example, but we can go out and while this is working. So one of the other benefits of going out and using agents is that they can be running in the system, and then we can just leave them. So this customer group list, which I was running, is running in the background. It's just merrily running away, and it's not requiring any information. Now, if I want to go out and me continue this. Say, for example, if I want to do something a little bit different, I can go out and start telling the system to do things for me. So in this case, I'm saying, I'm starting a process, and I'm saying I'm a procurement agent, or I'm a add whatever your role is within the organization. And I just said, go and look in the ERP system for things I need to do today. And then also I told it to go and create a summary of this requisition along the way so it can chain things together. And the system goes out and it runs. So first of all, it told me what the requisition was. So it sort of it went off on a track and then said, I've got a requisition in here and it's for some carbon steel pipe. But then also continued on and said, it looked in Dynamics. It looked in everything that's related to purchasing. And then said, based off last Friday, in my system, I've got purchase requisitions that need to be reviewed. I've got some RFQs that require follow-up. I've got some purchase orders that are on there. And also I've got 14 vendors that need to be onboarding. Also this requisition that I've got here needs to be converted over to a purchase order. So it went out and did that for me. So then I said, go out and create a dashboard of this for my tasks. And then it gave me a summary of everything that I need to work on. But also the really interesting thing was it told me what I've got 16 items due and then some more items. But then it said, here are the items that we need to work on. Now, the MCP server also has a capability now to go out and create deep links. Deep links are one of my favorite things because what they allow you to do is click on things and then they open up Dynamics. I didn't enable it in this. And in the past, you had to go and do some custom coding. But now we can just use the MCP server and say, create a deep link. And it will create that link and we just click on it. And then this is like my task list. So it's going out and telling me everything that I need to do. And then, what's that? And then it created that dashboard for me. Now, also, what I can do is anytime I've got this, I can go and tell it to run this on a scheduled basis. So I went through this and I said, I want to run this on a daily basis. Every day, I want to know what I need to work on. So as opposed to going out and configuring the system to go out and have a dashboard to show just what Microsoft thinks you need, you can go and you can create a query and say, this is what I want to do. And then have the configuration task be sent to me. So I've actually got a scheduled task here or two, which is my procurement dashboard that goes out and looks up these activities, and then it will run every day and then send me the information, and I can run it now. And that's going to run in the background. Now, there's something else that I did here, which is starting to get to some of the other configuration, is that configuration could be just tasks that need to be performed. So now what I've done is I've gone out and I've said, I've got this command here, but if this is a little bit too obscure to understand, so I got Copilot to go out and say, what does this mean? And this is a chained task. And I've created a configuration that says, simulate some orders, because I do demos, so I want every day to have some orders created in the system, and then process the shipments, and then invoice them, and then simulate customer payments, and then run that every day. And so that was my command, and this is actually what it does. It goes out and it runs the simulation. Here it went out and it ran the simulation and created orders in the system, and it shipped some of them, and it had some problems with some other information, but it actually went out and did that for me. Now, let me see. There was an area there. Let's see if I can find it. I thought that I had one. I was going out and doing there's one thing that, and I'll talk about this later on. One thing that the vibe configuration does is that sometimes we don't know everything within the system. We think we'd like to, but we don't. And I had a requirement to create a bill of exchange workflow, customer draw bill of exchange, and so I just said, go and create that for me. So the AI went out and sort of worked through it and worked out that the bill of exchange is an AP function within F&O. And then it said there's some blocking in there. It asked me some questions. It actually said Dynamics was down at the point, and then it continued on, and then started working through this configuration. I think there might be another area where it went out and created this. Now, but I also did this for another scenario where I needed to set up budgets in the system. And budgets are a little bit squirrely, and only certain people, some people know well, some people not so much. So I just said, go and configure some budgets. And then also I said, go and create a requisition that's attached to the budget so that I can perform this, and then go and process that requisition through to a purchase order and an invoice so that I can have a full flow. And then I can also tell the agent to go out and sort of run a test. So if I'm a IT person, I'm trying to run like a quick test on a test environment to say, does this work? Then we can actually get AI to go out and do that, and it will tenaciously work through it and run through that test. The interesting thing that I found is that if it comes across a problem, then it will say it's got a problem and say, do you want to fix it? And of course, me being lazy, I said, sure, fix it. And then it will go through and set things up. So for example, if there's item groups missing, or if there's payment terms that aren't configured, or something out of the ordinary is configured in the system, then the agent will configure it. So let me see if this popped up. Try this. So my chat isn't working over here. But the thing, when the chat does work, then I have this up and running against Dynamics, and then I just delegate tasks to it to set things up. So this is interesting because what we can do is we can go out and start configuration. Now, where things start to get more interesting, or even more interesting, is now I'm going to talk about Scout, and then also I'm going to talk about Visual Studio Code. And I'm going to use the same example, but I'm going to use them for different purposes within the system. So for those of you that don't know, haven't heard some of the marketing stuff around Scout, Scout is sort of like the it's like an OpenClaw for the most part, but so it runs on your PC, and then it consumes GitHub Copilot tokens to do all the work. And what you can do is you can go and create automation. So it also has access to WorkIQ, so it can connect to email, it can connect to Teams and all these things. But what we can do is we can tell it to go and run tasks. In this case, look at my emails and summarize them and send me a notice in the morning. But there's another feature, which is this co-create option. Now, co-create is what this does is this allows me to go out and connect to data which is on my PC, and then use that and go and do things against it. Now, for a little secret of mine is that we're in sales, so we get a lot of RFPs, and all the information for RFPs are publicly available. So our RFPs should be shot; they should be dead because there's no point in them. Look at RFPs when they've been on another topic. And but what I usually have that document locally, so I can go out and I can use Scout or Visual Studio Code, which I'll show in a second, to go out and open up that document, which may be an Excel file, and use whatever APIs it needs, because it may go out and create some Python scripts or some PowerShell scripts, and then look at that and then go and answer the information. So it squirrels through it and creates answers. And for me, some people say aren't you worried about that? And I said, wouldn't you be worried about me answering it? Because I'd be a lot more, wouldn't be as thorough as the agent would be. But the reason why I'm going through here is because I'm going to go that next step up. So I'm going to, with CoWork, I was going out and I was creating, some records and I was doing some vibe configuration. But what we can do is we can do some more advanced things and some more clever things in here. And one of the things that if for the partners and even for customers, one of the things is that it's so hard, it's so complex to go out and create new legal entities within Dynamics. It's work, but you have to think about it, and there's reasons why it's hard, because there's a lot of different moving parts inside of here. So when I started working through this and working through the MCP server, when the Vibe configurations came out, then really the first goal that we had was, can we go out and create these legal entities and have the system run through this? So I started this morning, and what I did is, let me move this over here. I wanted for another project, I want to create a legal entity, and I wanted to create it as simple as I can. Mainly so that I could go and demonstrate master planning without having like thousands of products inside of there, which is in the system. So in a previous in Copilot, or it might have been ChatGPT, or it might have been Claude, I said, what is the most simplest business organization that's out there? And one of the items that came out was ice making. It was actually water purification or ice making. And I thought that ice was a little bit more exciting than just bottling water, because you have to do something to the ice. So I said, go out and create a spec based off what you know for a legal entity within Dynamics for the production of ice. And some people may think, that's silly. There's people out there. You go out and use it all the time. You go to the grocery store and you buy ice. Someone has to make it, and there's a costing associated with it. So Contoso Ice was born, and the language model. So we haven't done anything in Dynamics yet, or we haven't done anything directly. It has gone back and looked at Dynamics, but it's gone and looked at Dynamics and said, well, there's Contoso Holding Group, and then there's a couple of other groups that are in there. But this is the spec that I want to have for Contoso Ice. So this is going to be the legal entity that's created. Now, and then also it went out and it said there's going to be customers, which is Contoso Coffee, Contoso Bikes, Contoso Kitchen, and Contoso Pet Care. And then there's some other items in there. And then I told it to go out and create a document for me. So here's the benefit of Scout and also Visual Studio is that I can go and create things in my local folder. So here is Contoso Ice. So here's my spec for how I need to set it up within the system. So it also talked about the number sequences and some other things. Then also what I did is I also did something else, and I said, go and create a research agent. So go and create an agent, an automation that goes out and researches ice, Contoso ice making, and run it every morning, go and look and try to find some examples of ice technology that's being used and how I could use it within Contoso Ice. And it set that up, and now I've got a research agent that's going out, and it's going to be continually refreshing this information along the way. And it's giving me ideas about things that I can do. So premium clear ice blocks, I could do spherical ice, I can do a lot of other things. So we can think about that. And then also some segments that it worked through. And then also I told it to go out and create some data for me. So I've got some specs down here for ice. So I've got a item number, which is premium spring water. And then I've also got an ice bag, so just something to put the ice in. And then it went out and said there's another bag, it's a 5-pound bag, and so forth. And then also a spherical gift box, which I hadn't seen. And then also it's going out and creating premium ice cubes. And for anyone who's interested, it's given it a price. There's a intercompany transfer price that's associated with it. I really haven't given it a lot of information, but it's gone out and worked this out. And if I look further down, I've actually got a bill of material that shows I put this premium spring water in and I freeze it, and then I put it into a bag, and that's my process, which is pretty straightforward. So I can go out and I can run this. Now, if you go out and use Scout, then Scout has an MCP server capability. So you can go out and add as many MCP servers here into the system. And this has an added benefit which you can do in Visual Studio, which I'll show you in a second. And that we can go out and we can have multiple instances of Dynamics, and we can say, go out and connect to this server and then this server. So I use that to go and do a comparison between multiple instances. But it's going out and doing all this research for me. So now I go out and let's go over to here. So now I'm inside of Visual Studio, and I like this because I can go out and do some other things. Some people are a little bit scared about Visual Studio because it's a developer tool, but it actually looks exactly the same as what Scout does. So if you don't have Scout, then just use Visual Studio Code. And then Visual Studio Code, if you go, here's a secret, not a secret tip, but I've got my MCP server, the URL I told you all about before. And if I go Control-Shift-P, and if I say add an MCP server, and then give it a URL for the MCP server, then that will connect my instance up to Dynamics. So what I did here is I connected it up to that same repository that I had all the legal entities, all the research that Scout was doing. And then I said, analyze the requirements. Let me make this a bit bigger for everyone. And then go through and look at the requirements. And then I said, start creating the legal entity. So I went through and I saw as you create it, then also create a log of what you're doing. And then it started working through, and it's going through, and it says it's going to go out and run some commands. And then it's using the MCP server. So there's a lot, Visual Studio Code has a lot of chatter. But in the end, it says it's going to go out and create a legal entity for me in Dynamics. So this didn't exist before this morning. But if I go over here now and go into my legal entity, then I can swap over to my Contoso Ice Company. So it's created a legal entity for me. I don't have any customer groups, but it started working through the legal entity. And also I went out and so I've got Contoso Ice. It's given it an address in the system. It's given it some contact information and some miscellaneous information. I don't know whether it created the ledger for me yet. No, it hasn't yet. I haven't asked it to create the ledger, but it will go out and actually do all that for me within the system. So I'm going out and with this, I'm starting running configuration. What I found as I went through and did this is it will go through, and it has enough context in the language models to understand Dynamics and what needs to be set up. So it will go into generally the correct form. Sometimes it confuses fixed assets with asset management and some other things, but you watch it and you direct it, so you're overseeing it rather than doing all the configuration. And it's running through, and I've given it some more information. We'll see where it got to. And it was actually saying that some of the items are blocked, but I spend like a day or so working through this, and it creates a system for me. So if I go out and then take this a step further, then this was an example of something that I was going out and creating, and this was for, I wanted to create something just as a test. And what I did is I went out and I created this brick craft trading environment. And if I go into the products and look at all the released products, then all of these are Legos. They're Lego pieces along the way. So we're going to see all of the bricks that are created and also the sets coming through here. I did nothing. I did something, but I didn't do a lot to go out and create this. So we've actually got all this information showing up here. So I can go out, I've configured this, and it goes through it's got purchasing and sales and inventory and costing and and also production for disassembly of items. But it has all of this information here. Now, this, if you want to get really clever, then what you can do is when we go out and run things here within the system, then what we can do is we can, if we have a task or if we want to delegate even further, then what we can do is we can tell the system to create agents. You can also do this in Scout as well. And don't know whether you can do it in CoWork. But what I said, go and create an agent that does something. So I went out and I created an agent that was a PIM agent, or that goes out and adds products into the system. And then for when we go out and look at some of these, where we've got agents here, then we've got I've got like an inventory manager agent that goes out and looks at the inventory, and it has a specification that's associated with it. So it's taking AI sort of, this one here, we're taking the specifications sort of like to the next level here within the system. Now, as we're going out, so this is what an agent will look like. So we can now go out and we can expand these things out. And with the agents can go and delegate to each other, and they can talk to each other. These agents don't go out and they don't connect to chat boards or anything like that. They're just simple agents for my system. But what I did is, since I'm in Visual Studio Code, then I said, go out and create a dashboard for me that has that shows me all of my agents and what they're doing. So I can code, but I don't have to code for this. And I can see all of my agents that are running, what tasks they've been delegated, and then also the tasks that are in here, and also the build log that's in there. So with the Contoso Ice, I started this process with noting down what's being done. But this has got a complete history from the enrichment suite as it goes through, and also all the tasks. So this, as we go out and as we use agents, we can get them to configure things, but then you can take things to the next, you can look at things from the other way. And you can say, I want to see if I've got this here. What we can do is we can say, I've got information in the system and inside of Dynamics, and maybe I want to pull that information out and do some real vibe coding. So this was an example where I've got coffee being produced inside of Dynamics, and I had a request. They said, we want to connect to a MES system, a SCADA system. I didn't have their particular SCADA system that I wanted, so I just went out and said, go out and create it. I actually said further down here, I pretty much just said here, go and create the agent, and it should mimic the tool that they have. And then the agent went out, but it built this UI for me, but then also went back and connected back to Dynamics with to pull all the information in. So the MCP server allows us to pull this up. So this is after we've done our configuration, then we can do super configuration where we go out and start pulling information into other dashboards or other areas, or automating the flow of this information within the system. So then if we, something else that I did is I thought, why don't we sort of push the bounds of the ERP, choose different ways of visualizing the information. So I've gone out and I've created green screen interfaces into Dynamics. I've created sort of little characters talking to each other as agents, talking to Dynamics. But this was one of the more interesting things that I had, where I wanted to pull in all the information inside of Dynamics. And so I extracted all the, or as I configured things, I extracted the information out. And then this is a map which shows all of the interrelationships of the data within Dynamics. So if we look in here, we've got customer pools that we can work through. I can look at my customer groups, where I can see all the different customer groups. If I choose a different customer group, then what it's doing is it's showing me all the relationships which are different customers and trade agreements that are associated with it, and so forth. How practical this is, I'm not sure, because it starts to get a little bit overwhelming. But the fun thing is that we can sort of jiggle these around and move them around. It looks like a star system. But I did all of this without any coding. All I did is I just vibe code this to go out and build out this information. So if you ever have things that you need to connect into Dynamics, then going out and doing vibe coding and connecting out through the MCP server is a really sort of interesting way that we can go out and do that. Now, so now, one final item that I've got is we can go out and this is rather than looking in outwards into Dynamics, or maybe the other way around, then what if we could go out and if we could look at what's in Dynamics and then pull it out and document it? So, and we can do exactly that with the MCP server. And what I have here is I've got the let me find my release products. I've got a repository that I've told it to the system, rather than go and create records in the system, go and look at the records and then pull them out and then document them. So what we can see is we've got all of our products here. And if I go out and if I look at something that's a little bit more detailed, then I've got products like this textbook, where the system has gone out and pulled out all the information associated with that textbook, pulled out all the storage dimensions and item model groups for it. I initially didn't have attributes like ISBN and publication date and so forth. This is a book. But I told it to go out and then embellish the information and then push this information back into Dynamics. And then as a result, what we have is we've got almost like a shadow copy of the ERP or the major configurations that then we can go and repurpose, we can go and use for documentation. So I could go out and tell the system, go and create a summary of all the textbooks, or create a summary of all the coffee products that we have within the system, and create it. Also, what this does is, if I look at this, I've got a number of different genres or different types of things I've got here. I've got a farming sort of model. I've got a distribution model, fabrication model, a bike production model, a printing model, a pet food model. All of these are just formatted in the format that Dynamics could use, that then I could go and then I could push out to back into Dynamics to access. So there's all of this vibe coding sort of capabilities that we have, or vibe configurations, can be inward facing, outward facing, or you could go and create other applications that can run. So why do we want this? Because it makes things faster and also allows us to delegate tasks. And then we really negotiate with the agents as we move through. And then also we automate. I think again, Donna Sakar had a slide where she talked about sort of like there was off the shelf, off the rack, and then the second one, then couture, sort of different levels of where you want to be interacting with it. And this is sort of the same thing. It's sort of what can we do with agents? So really these technologies don't, for me at least, what they haven't really replaced what I do, because there's still storytelling that needs to be done around this, but it again moves tasks that should be AI tasks that AI does better over to them, and then I do the tasks. So it gets rid of this drudgery. And also, let me see, I thought I had
Bobby.
So I thought I had a couple of different things. So
I think we got a link issue. If you just check your email.
Yeah. So we've got all of these things sort of help us along the way. So this is I'm right on time, I think. So I'm stopping. We haven't got time for questions, but if anyone has questions, then sorry, I had too much content. Then put it in the chat. But yeah,
you can nailed this.
Yeah, you can find me everywhere on the web. The easiest way to contact me if you want to talk to me is through LinkedIn. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you again, Murray.
You're on
I'll post your LinkedIn in the chat. But if you prefer like your main website, please just paste that also there. But thanks again.